So now we need to add the spine. And just like we did with the package design, usually go to the left when it comes to things that are printed and folded around a product. So with a book, it's the same way. The cover will be on the right, the spine will be in the middle, and the back will be on the left side. So we're going to expand our artboard here. A lot of times I like to set this up in Adobe Illustrator, and we're going to be doing this with the next two book covers. But with this one, I'm just going to stay in Photoshop for getting the file ready, because there's going to be a lot more photo editing we're going to have to do for the spine. So I'm going to go ahead and expand the canvas size. So we're going to Image, and this is going to expand the canvas size. So here's what we need to think about. How thick is the spine going to be? This is not something you're going to know right away. The publisher or whoever is writing the book, they're going to need to know how many pages there are in here. So this is something that you're not going to have to come up with. It's going to be something that they're going to send you. They're going to say it's going to be 2 inches wide. It's going to be half an inch wide. So we're going to try to do a 1 inch, maybe a 1.5 inch wide spine. So let's just do the spine, and then we'll expand the canvas again, and then we'll add the back. Or we can add them both at the same time. I'm trying to think through what would be easier to kind of show you. Let's add both of them in at the same time. So right now we have a width of 5. So right now the back would also have a width of 5. So to add the back, we would double it and make it 10. So you have 5 inches for the front, 5 inches for the back, but we also want to have a 1.5 inch spine. So let's add 5, which would be 10, and let's add our spine, which will be another 1.5 added. So 11.5. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. What we're going to do, this is where it expands. So if you do up here, it's going to expand the canvas that way. We're going to click over to this right center box because we want it to expand out that way where the arrow is. Kind of the opposite of what you would think. But let's go ahead and click on this right box. Click OK. And there we go. We have a spine added and we have the back added. So this is going to be your spine, and we're going to put a little indication that's going to indicate where the spine is. You can always open a new document. If, let's say, I didn't have this nice indication of where the spine was, I can go to New, and I can create a 1.5 by 10 inch document. So it's going to be 1.5 inches, and I can add any color. So this just helps me with sizing. So this is an exact 1.5 inches. So that would probably be where my spine is. And you could just create a new, it's a lot easier to do in Illustrator setting this up, but we're going to be in Photoshop for this particular book. So I'm going to do 5. 5 is how wide the back is, 5 inches. So we're just dragging this over, and that would be our back. So those kind of line up just like that. So that's a pretty thick spine. Probably don't need to have a spine quite as thick, but we're just going to go ahead and roll with it. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and change this so that we know that is the spine. Just changing it different colors. So this is how you would send the PDF to the printer. Of course, there could be bleed that will need to be added too, which is very common with book covers, is adding a little bit of extra around that'll be trimmed off. You won't even see it, but the printer needs to have it. Let's go ahead and add that in before we get too deep into this. And we're going to go back into canvas size. We're going to add a little bleed. In Illustrator, it's even easier to add. But in Photoshop, we're just going to add bleed all around both sides. So let's say we want a traditional 1/8 bleed around all the sides. So what we're going to do is width, you're going to actually double that. So instead of 1/8, it's going to be 1/4 of an inch. And of course, it's in decimals. So instead of a fourth, it doesn't use fractions. A 1/4 of an inch is 0.25 in decimals. So we're going to be adding 0.25 to this. So instead of 11.5 in width, we're going to add 0.75. And that's going to add 1/8 of an inch to the left and 1/8 of an inch to the right, which is 0.25 inches in decimal and 0.25 inches in decimal on the right. It could be a bit confusing. It took me years to learn this. We're going to do this over and over in the course, so don't feel like you have to get it right away. Same thing here, going to add 0.25. That'll add 1/8 of an inch to the top, 1/8 of an inch to the bottom. We want it to equally go out across the canvas. We're going to click on OK. It's going to kind of add a little bit of that bleed. And I'm going to put a little indication for me to know where that bleed is. That's going to be trimmed off. Anything outside of that line is going to be trimmed off. So it's not going to be anything too exciting. So I'm just going to do red as a nice indication line. We're basically setting up our own template here for a book. So that's all going to be extra. So we do need to extend everything out to that edge. It needs to be nice and streamlined. And that'll be easy for some of the other things we haven't done yet. So yeah, so let's go up to bleed, toggle that on and off. Anything outside of that red line is going to be cut. So we're going to keep it on. So the red is bleed. That's the spine. This is the back. So let's do the spine. We're going to do the spine in the next video. So for the spine, we could do a couple things. We can continue the same flowers over, you know, and maybe fade this photo out. Or I was thinking of just doing an all black, just getting our little eyedropper tool. And let's go ahead and copy, just copying our title, and let's bring it all the way to the top layer. And let's go ahead and rotate this. So I'm just going to edit, transform. We're going to rotate. We want to rotate it clockwise. And we're going to make it a little bit smaller. And all we're doing is we're going to have our title going down the spine just like this. And this is a very thick book. You may not have a whole lot of room on your spine. I think with the test, I do all my designs before I do them with you guys. I do them all ahead of time just to kind of get an idea of the direction I want to go in. So you could see how I made the spine a little bit smaller on my first version, but we're just going to have an extra big spine with this one. Kind of line it up a little bit. In Illustrator, it makes it even easier. You can use guides as well to help you. And to get guides to work, we need to have our ruler set up, which is really nice when we're working with sizes right now. So let's go to View, and we're going to make sure our rulers are set to on. And so now we have our rulers. We could tell the width of everything, which is really helpful. And here's how you get guides to come up. So let me go ahead and get all this set up here. So to get guides to come up, you're just going to grab the ruler. You're going to click and hold, and there's going to be this little guide, this little line that's going to come out. And that's going to kind of help us gauge where things are. So now we know that that's the spine, and you could pull down this side. You could even do where the bleed is, which is kind of nice. You know, kind of bring it out. So this is very helpful in setting a lot of things up, especially with digital website design. Guides are incredibly helpful. So all you have to do is make sure your rulers are on, and then you can just drag, and you're done with guides. Of course, you could toggle your guides off. You could just go to show, and then you toggle them off. But I kind of like them, so to leave them on, and we don't need this little red indication anymore. That's already kind of been decided here for us. Go ahead and extend that out past the bleed. So what we want to do is add something interesting to the spine, like just a little hint of what's to come in the book. So I thought I would take this flower, we could duplicate that, and bring it on the spine. So let's go ahead and bring it up a little bit and just have like a little hint of a flower. And maybe it even covers up part of the title, like maybe it just covers up the S right there, just kind of have it there. So we need to go ahead and crop this because we don't want the flower to come over to the front.